Yo! What's going on, boys? This is Grim Reaper bringing you One Punch Man 167. This chapter was legendary. We talked about in the live reaction about how since 164 this fight has continued to escalate exponentially. And now we're at this point. Unimaginable greatness, unimaginable feats, things that we did not think we were going to see in the series. With that being the case, like the video, subscribe, we're going to get into it. I thought this chapter was a 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10. It was crazy. I did not expect to see Saitama like bust a moon basically one-handed. Just stick his hand in the ground, lift that bit, and rip apart an entire moon. That was something I wasn't expecting at all. And it's almost out of place compared to all the rest of the attacks that we've seen, besides the serious punch to the second, which we'll address in a moment here. Overall, I love the aesthetics. I love the art. My favorite panel, I think one of the best panels of the entire manga, is going to be whenever Saitama's holding Genos' core in his hand, and he's like, I better hold on tight to this. And then you can see the shadow of Caped, and then that's all there is. That was spectacular. Never before in the series have we seen Saitama hurt like that. It definitely got to me. It definitely hit the emotional strings. Something that wasn't necessarily lacking in the story, but it's only enriched the plotline. It has only enriched the conflict in which Garou and Saitama are having here. A catalyst of which is Garou in particular. So I love that. So without further ado, let's get started with the actual breakdown of events. Remember, my reviews, I don't go through sequentially what happened there and tell you. I'm not going to recount what you read in the chapter, because you can read the chapter on your own and you should have read it. This is not what this is about. We're going to talk about the concepts and the ideas that came about with the storyline. So first, let's talk about this serious punch to the second. This is spectacular. This was what seems to be in contention of the greatest attack we've seen in the series. The strongest release of power possible that we've seen in the series so far, without a doubt. There are some crazy implications because of it, and we'll talk about them in a second. But, jeez, man. Like, I didn't think the results of the attack that we saw in 167 that were being hyped up by Blast at the end of 166, I didn't think they correlated. Like, what we got here was way crazier than what I thought that Blast was hyping up and was worried about. This, like, you're right, bro. It would have done more than that. It would have been more than what you were afraid of. But this also does help confirm what Garou said in 166. He said that he was going to copy his full power attack or whatever, and then I'll beat him with it, overcome it, evolve past it. And it seems to be that he at least accomplished the first portion of that, of actually copying the strength behind a serious punch. Before, we had seen examples of him copying abilities, of him copying fighting styles. I guess it's not out of the range of possibility, or it's confirmed that he can also copy power level. All the serious punches is a type of punch, a style of punch unique to Saitama with immense power behind it, and he managed to copy the technique. So this speaks to the prospects of what Garou said at the end of this chapter as well, about him continuing to copy the powers and the level and the abilities of Saitama until he surpasses them eventually. That could definitely be the case, and this is the best evidence that we have to point towards it. Now, with this big serious punch to the second, we talked about several things being derived from that. Not only is that one concept, the fact that it's it is the greatest display of power we've seen in the series, but that great display of power was contained by Blast. Yeah, it would have continued to expand. The explosion would have continued to expand. All that energy would have engulfed the Earth and the Moon as well. But Blast on his own managed to contain it, and he was struggling. And that's when the rest of his team came and supported him. And then they were able to, like, it looked like a big circular explosion that was like covered by some type of like wavy substance around it. That was Blast's, containing capabilities. And then they amplified his abilities and managed to like cut it down into chunks. I don't know exactly what happened there or how to describe it exactly, but it seems like they redirected the blast away from Earth. it's hard to interpret exactly what happens here. There's a panel where we see like a beam flying off, a smaller beam, in contrast to the rest of the explosion. Is that Saitama and Garou being sent to Jupiter? Is that the direction in which they were directing the entirety of that explosion? Like the after results we see of that, is that because the energy's been sent somewhere else? That's why it's not there anymore? Or what happened to that energy? So there's a few more pieces of information that we could use more context to build a more clear picture. Besides that, we're going to have to be dependent upon the anime to fill in the gaps between there. But for all intents and purposes, Blast and his boys are capable of containing the strongest output of energy that we've seen in the series so far, and that's incredible. That's incredible. That's very, very impressive of their group. In page 7, the dialogue of the Blast group implies that they're aware of other planets outside of Earth. And I'm gonna read this dialogue to you here verbatim so you get the context that I'm referring to. But here's how it starts. So, the gate can't handle this much energy. I can't give it enough distance. No matter what, I've got to somehow manage to at least alter the vector of the destructive energy away from the Earth. And then we get one of his teammates that comes out. It says, seems we underestimated the Earth. The Earth. To think another hero besides you could hold his own against one imbued with so much divine power. Just who is he? It seems as if they had low expectations of the Earth in regards to battle power. That Blast was the only one who had great battle power in regards to the Earth. What standard are you holding? Like, is there a different standard of like high or strong battle power? Have you like explored the vastness of the universe to say that like it's almost as if they're implying that there are other planets or other forces or other fighters that are from different places, as if they are confirmed aliens. We don't know what they are. We don't know who Blast's teammates are. They look like monsters. People were saying they were monsters. But whatever the case is, it seems to be, or it could be the case, that an alien force or alien fighters may become present in the story of One Punch Man. We may get people from different planets being relevant in this fight. Involving God, after God, superseding God, we don't know, but these fighters may not be from Earth. And they may look down on Earth because of it. This is something that, by the way, it was spectacular art here. Like, the explosion, or the energy release, literally as bright as the sun. Spectacular angle from there. But in those same panels where we're seeing the explosion be dealt with or mitigated by Blast's group, we also get this iconic panel of the beam flying off from the rest of the explosion, the Earth in the background, and the moon in the foreground. Not coincidentally, we're assuming that because of all the time that we've seen the moon, that it's tidally locked, just like it is in the real world. Meaning one side usually faces or always faces the Earth. This is on the backside of the moon. We see what seems to be, in my personal opinion, a formation of a skeleton and a skeleton, rib cage and spine. I don't know what context it had. God's appearance, God really hasn't really appeared in that form before. So for us to assume that's what he looks like, that would be us assuming that. But those are the strongest correlations, that this shape that we're seeing in this great crater on the moon is God. Now, we could talk about other possibilities. Maybe this is some after effects from Saitama jumping off of it. Maybe this is just how the bottom of this crater formed because of other things. Maybe another reason. I don't know, but I think the strongest thing that we can believe is that is God. So, what does that say about the reality of this situation? Is God trying to come back to Earth to possess that body, to possess that vessel in there? Is this some Attack on Titan type situation that's going on where God is hidden on the moon like Titans are hidden within the walls? What are we supposed to be deriving from this peculiar structure on the back dark side of the moon? we should talk about this more because it probably has a lot more context to it. But stay tuned for the One Punch Man podcast so that we can contrast ideas, because I'm all out of them. So in my live reaction, when talking about page 11 and discussing the consequences of this energy release, I said the word void. Now, it does seem to be that a lot of people in the community seem to be concurring with that opinion. I now want to change that opinion, and I want to say that I think this is a black hole. Now, to explain what I understand about the two concepts, voids are like from the Big Bang, when all the energy in the universe was in one place and then it spread out apart. A few moments after the Big Bang, I think it was like 330,000 years after the Big Bang, is that we have a clear picture of the CMB, which is the cosmic microwave background. So all the energy that was left over after that great explosion. And throughout the spread of this energy in the universe, there are portions that have more or less. The portions that have less energy in it are colder, and the portions that have more energy in it, or more materials in it, or matter, are hotter. And those are the parts that happen to form galaxies and stars and other different structures that we see in phenomena that we see in the universe. Well, those portions that have less matter and it's less common didn't form as many of those because there are less material to do those things, less energy and less matter to create those same structures. So voids are portions, or what's believed to be theories, what's believed to be portions of the universe in which the CMB didn't spread evenly, and there wasn't as much material there to make the structures that we have. So it's just an empty portion of space. Voids aren't. It's not like there's nothing inside of a void, or the biggest, most famous voids that we've found in the universe. I forgot some of their names. In actuality, it's just that there's a smaller percentage, a much smaller percentage, like 20-30% less material, matter, and energy in those regions than in the surrounding regions. Same thing for the CMB in regards to the color differences. How it's described in regards to temperature differences. The temperature differences aren't that great, but they're significant enough to matter, apparently. That's what my understanding of what a void is. That's what a void is. What the belief in the community is that by blast redirecting the energy from this combo attack, that it created a void. This doesn't seem credible to me because these stars are far, far away, and I don't think that this attack had any potential to clear out 1,000 trillion stars that are like 500 million light years away or something like that. Like, I don't think that makes sense. To me, what's more credible is that in Blast and the boys' attempt to contain and redirect this energy attack, it caused a black hole, or they turned it into a black hole, or I think this is a black hole. I would explain why you can't see light behind it and why it's a circular motion. It has a circular shape, or a shape like that, to where at its edge there's nothing in the center, but right up on the edge or whatever, you see all kinds of light, you see all kinds of things everywhere. That's simply the light at the event horizon that can't escape from it, and then I can't escape from it. Once you reach the event horizon, light can't escape from that point anymore. You're pretty much destined to go to the center of that black hole, quote unquote, as we describe it. And black holes bend space-time, so of course you're not going to be able to see behind it. A black hole isn't like a surface thingy. Think of it more like a sphere, just like an area. It's hard to describe, but it's not a circle. It's not a circle in the sky that, like, hey, if you go to that circle, you're gonna get sucked into it. It's not like that. Think of it like a sphere. And all around here, if you reach a certain point in this area, you're gonna keep going towards the center, regardless of what you do, regardless of how much energy you have. That's my understanding. Probably didn't explain it as clearly as what it is, but those, as far as what I've heard in discussing the community so far, and once again, stay tuned for the One Punch Man podcast. You can hear refutations of my ideas and my theories and my beliefs, and contrasting opinions about what's actually going on as well, so that we can all discuss what's going on. And I'm probably gonna make a poll question too, to see what people believe happened here, because I want it to be addressed in 168, if anything. So now let's talk about the great feat in regards to the aftermath of this, a serious punch to the second. So Boros just briefly took us to the moon in his fight. Now we've toppled that feat. Garou has, with Saitama, taken us to the moon of Jupiter, Io. This is unimaginable. Unimaginable, bro. I think I wrote down the distance that Jupiter is from Earth, and I think it's fair that if we've now found that Jupiter and one of its moons exists coincidentally in the One Punch Man verse, and the moon itself exists in the One Punch Man verse, that maybe there's some correlation between the celestial bodies in the real world and the celestial bodies of One Punch Man. If that's the case, maybe, or they should have similar distances in orbits to what they do in the real world. If that's the case, then Jupiter is 435 million miles away. That's how far they got sent. First blast took them to outer space, and then the recoil from that blast sent them that far away. 435 million miles away. That's crazy. Remember, folks, I'm not a guy who likes to use calculations or specific numbers in these fictional storylines because the authors are not putting that same emphasis into it. Murata doesn't care that it's 435 million miles away. It's big far. That's basically as deep and as far as it's going to get in regards to detail. It's big far. That's how far it went, bro. That's how hard that attack sent them, bro. That's how powerful it was. That's the detail. That's as deep as it's going to get into. But I'd love just pointing that out that, like, we're right next to Jupiter, bro. Like, we're standing there right underneath Jupiter's big red spot. And the colored art that we got here for the planets, Murata and Garou, like, oh my god, my bad, Saitama and Garou, like, man, that was some great coloring. That was some really good coloring. And I also loved, I don't know if this was like shaded this way on purpose, because it's not exactly the same throughout the entirety of the fight, but it's close, and you can point it out most of the time. But the shading around Saitama in particular, here right when they land on the Earth, is so ominous and so badass. It's so different. And it's like I believe that it's supposed to be an emphasis or a depiction of the different kind of sunlight, or how the sunlight that's coming off of Jupiter is bouncing or is deflecting onto Io, and how those gases are changing maybe the hue or the intensity of it, or just like how it comes off in general. You know, you're not getting you may not be getting direct sunlight from the sun because of how great Jupiter is. Io may be on the other side of Jupiter at the time period that Saitama and Garou got them. We don't know what the case is. All I know is that the lighting there looks crazy different, crazy ominous. Like the way Saitama's looking down at Garou, oh well, at least I can let loose. It's just, man, it's I love the art and the combo setups that we had here for this fight. Now, here's where we get into some more controversial topics for the chapter. In regards to dialogue, Saitama said letting loose in full power. Now, what does this really mean? Are we to take the exact context that Saitama is saying that he's, and I'll read it verbatim, oh well, at least I can let loose at full power against a guy who can stay up? Does that mean literally that? Or does his actions contradict that? Case in point, not only is he fighting one-handed, but he has the delicate fragile core of Genos in his other hand. He even tells, and then he reassures that that action or the determination by telling Garou that I only need one hand to beat you. Bring it on. So, as far as Saitama using his full power, I think we still have room to doubt, even though the dialogue may allude to that. We know how dialogue can change in regards to the Viz versions, in regards to the Reddit versions. We know that Reddit guys have wanted to use different translations after releases. We know Murata himself, or those Viz translators, also have wanted to make different changes to previous translations that were released already. So, whatever the case is here, I still have doubts this is full power Saitama, but the display is crazy. And maybe the display is evidence that it is full power Saitama. This man... Let me read my notes so I don't go on ahead, because we gotta get out of here soon, but like... full power Saitama, bro. Let's just leave it at that. The next big portion that we want to talk about, or that we have to talk about, and it's probably the main part of the chapter that matters, is Saitama's dissatisfaction. First, his realization that he may have finally gotten what he wanted for so long now. A satisfactory fight, a good opponent, a tough fight. But he's not satisfied. We've had a conversation with King before about the realities of Saitama's situation. That he may indeed be the strongest hero, but he is not the best hero. And now, once again here, most recently, Garou kills, quote-unquote, Genos. Saitama has always, for a long time, almost comedically been late to perilous situations, whether it's Deep Sea King or not. Whether it's Moon Rider getting knocked out, beat down or not. Saitama is somewhat fashionably late. Is that the best thing for a hero? Shouldn't a hero be there right on time, right when you need him? Hasn't Saitama been characteristically just late? Now is the most recent time, and the time that matters the most to him. Yes, Genos has been beat down before, including the Deep Sea King scenario that we're talking about. Including right before this here too. Whenever Black Sperm was giving him the beat down, and then Saitama arrived and was shaking him out like, hey man, you're good to go, right bro? Like, there's more to Saitama's plotline than fighting the best fight. That's been declared now. We have been on a journey to improve Saitama to becoming the best hero. His response to this failure is telling. And I'd be interested to see if this response will also be criticized. If he shouldn't be getting mad. Or he'll feel change in response to this. What actions will he take differently in the future? What things will change because of his failure to save Genos in time? I don't know. It was, like we talked about before, I was kind of surprised that like Saitama was that pissed about it. But I'm into it. Genos is my favorite character. I'm into it too. What was surprising though was Saitama's ability to like basically manhandle most of Garou's like portals that he copied from Blast. This does imply that Saitama would have an easy time or a similar time, would have a similar time in regards to difficulty against Blast fighting his portals. And maybe Blast has more mastery, especially with what he just displayed. He definitely has more mastery with his portals and his techniques or technology, whatever it is, than Garou might have. But, jeez, to have Saitama kicking these portals, catching them, redirecting them, it's something that you would have never thought would be possible for these. Like, you didn't think that they had these type of properties or characteristics. And I'm excited to see what else Blast can do with these portals. I'm also excited to see how else and what other kind of powers Saitama can mitigate or can overcome in dynamic ways. Because I wouldn't have expected this like whatsoever. Saitama's got some real power behind all of his actions right now. Like, this is crazy. The punch that he blitzed Garou with when Garou tried to put him in the portal, sent him off planet. Like, we're not seeing too many punches that are just sending people off planet all the time from Saitama. So I just want to point that out there because the scale of the events that we saw in this chapter were so great that smaller great feats might go under the radar or might be missed. But no, Saitama sent Garou off planet with that sneak blitz punch. That was that thing. Garou's use of his portals is also dynamic. He's using it kind of like how Blast was, maybe not as crazily at first, but then he stepped it up all the way with his like, I almost want to say like volley of multi-directional like attacks where he's coming at Saitama with. Like, this was definitely something innovative and characteristic of Garou. And especially so as how he managed to meld in that same portal opening technique with everything else that he's learned. Because to me, it seemed as if he was using that to do the Watchdog run. And then by doing that Watchdog run, he started attacking Saitama with the Roaring Order Sky Ripping Fist. This is all a combo that I'm describing right now. Then Saitama punches through the roaring aura sky ripping fist, only to have his punch deflected by the water stream rock smashing fist. And then Garou counters with the exploding heart release, then hits him with a whirlwind iron cutting fist, then hits him with a nuclear fusion gravity knuckle combo. And all of this is just one combo. All of that is just one combo, and it was spectacular. It was spectacular. I loved it. I loved every second of it because we're getting to see Garou try different things, his different abilities, the variety of capabilities that he's bringing to the table, he's bringing to the fight, and coming forth. We're not just focused on one thing. It's not just a serious punch the whole time like Saitama is doing right now. I don't like that. I want some variety in his attacks, or I want some variety in the responses to Saitama's attacks, and that's what Garou's giving me, and I love that. Almost seemed as if like that combo actually was like moon level with the explosion that we saw there, that like almost engulfed all of the moon. It seemed like it did engulf all of Io, and it was spectacular, but it didn't destroy like the rocks that they were standing on. That's when we get this serious table flip. Planetary, that's all I can say. I dislike the name. Serious table flip seems so lame, but to break apart a moon? This is ridiculous. 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 Oh, like we're talking about. Not only does this chapter like push Saitama in regards to like outside of One Punch Man versus scaling, not only does he start to now compete with some of the big boys who we always thought he did, like the Gokus, like the Supermans, like all those guys like that. We already knew that Saitama was really capable and could actually like fight and beat these guys from assumed feats, maybe embellishing a little bit based on some things that he has and what we expect he should be able to do. But now he's proving things that, hey man, yeah, I'm out here cutting loose, letting loose, and this is what happens when I do that. Not full power yet, as I said. There's still doubt there in my personal opinion, but whatever the case is, we're in there. Whatever the case is, we're here. We're here. We're here. The table flip was crazy. Like, we're busting moons. We're busting planets, bro. That's what we're doing out here. One-handed. One-handed. 4 fingers, some people are claiming out there, bro. 30 bit. Then Saitama continues with this little, I don't want to call it a troll, but he's definitely going after Garou. Like, maybe even going after his ego, like talking junk, whatever the case is, but he copies the technique that he just did. He says, I can do that too. And the exact same thing that Garou did to start off his combo, he does the exact same thing. Jumps around him, but he hits him with an omnidirectional serious punch instead. I think negatively about this, solely in regards to how many of these named catastrophic, extra hyped up attacks we've seen from Saitama in the past that Garou's just taking. Now, this is more unfounded feelings from myself. Garou has the reasoning and has the storytelling support and the evidence to support and to say that he should be able to take what he's taking, because he's been fighting this entire time, for sure. But I just don't like that it's Saitama that's doing all this and that he's just fine. Like, we got in the blitz attack, in the blitz that Saitama did, popped in the mouth, his face broke off a little bit, hit him with a serious punch, where he came through the portal, surprised him. He broke his face a little bit, but I don't know, I just wanted a more exaggerated or more detrimental effects on Garou for every single attack that he took from Saitama. And lasting and deliberate depictions as well. That's what I wanted. I'm not getting as much of that. I'm getting a little bit of that. And Garou is getting frustrated. But his attitude at the end here, I think, was really discouraging to me. And it left a sour taste in my mouth. I don't want this to be a continuing copycat match where you're just copying everything that Garou does. That Saitama does. Garou mentions here at the end. Then I just have to copy him limitlessly until I win. I don't want that. Do something different, do something better, do something dynamic. Like this combo that he pulled out there, the iron, the whirlwind, roaring aura, exploding heart, water stream combo that he pulled out, spectacular. I want things more like that, using blast powers in correlation or in compound with those abilities as well. I love that. I want more of that up against Saitama. Don't just copy his techniques. That's my personal opinion, though. I want to hear your opinions and why they're different from mine, or why you think I'm whining or complaining, or why you agree with what I said in the comment section below. We're going to be recording the One Punch Man podcast here soon, so that you can hear a variety of different content creators, people who react, who've been reading the manga for a long time, hear their opinions, and that we can all get into a circle no homo and really enjoy this One Punch greatness. Yo ho!